In today's video, we have a variety of NHL news updates, including some more information on the Ilya Kovalchuk situation with the Los Angeles Kings. We have some news and rumors concerning some teams like the Red Wings and Stars, Blues and Leafs. Plus, could we see the great one, Wayne Gretzky, make his return to coaching? We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of news updates, and I want to kick things off with the news that we possibly might see the great one, Wayne Gretzky, make his return to coaching. He's apparently been invited by Team Canada GM Sean Burke, who's looking after the Canada's entry for the Spengler Cup, and he's asked Wayne Gretzky if he's interested in being the head coach for this year's team going over to that tournament. Obviously, Wayne Gretzky hasn't coached in about a decade since he was with the then Phoenix Coyotes organization as a head coach. I mean, obviously at that point, he didn't have the greatest success in a head coaching position, but there was a lot of other things going on with the organization as well. So it's really difficult to say exactly how much of that was on him. But he certainly had a much better record as a player than he ever did as a coach. But certainly things are very different for Wayne Gretzky as of right now. He's working as an ambassador with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, his kids are growing up. He's now, has grandkids as well. So certainly his family dynamic has changed. So he's kind of weighing things over and thinking things through. Of course, that tournament kicks off right after Christmas as well. So, being a fairly new grandparent, there's lots of other things going on in his life that he might feel are more important. He certainly doesn't need the money by any means. So certainly nothing from a financial standpoint is going to make a big impact on his decision from that regard. So certainly will be interesting to see if Gretzky takes him up on his offer to be the head coach for Team Canada at the Spengler Cup, and if that might spawn his interest to getting back into coaching at all at the NHL level anytime in the near future. So I guess we'll see what happens with the great one. Now, as I reported on last night, there is some speculation that Ilya Kovalchuk's time with the Los Angeles Kings might be coming to an end. It was reported last evening by Elliot Friedman that the Kings had informed Kovalchuk that he was welcome to continue practicing with the club, but that he would not be in the lineup for the foreseeable future. He was going to be made a healthy scratch. Basically, at this point, it looks as though the Kings are doing what they could to either move him along via trade or to see what else they could do to kind of move him off the roster. The Kovalchuk experiment in LA, I think we can say, has officially failed. Never really got off the ground. He got off to a decent start last year, decent start this year, quickly cooled off, and he's obviously making $6.25 million. Still has the rest of this year and next. One key thing with his contract that might allow him to be traded if they can actually find a trade. After December the 15th, he has a hefty signing bonus due, which would certainly really cut down any team that acquires him their actual expense and paid out salary for the remainder of this year. The salary portion of his contract this year is only $700,000, so that wouldn't be a big expense, but they'd still be on the hook for one more year as well. And of course, to complicate matters further, he's got a no trade clause, so he has full say over where he's going. Now, next year, should this drag on further, he does have a modified no trade, so there's a little bit more wiggle room, but not really a whole heck of a lot there. Now, there's been more reports today from the Hockey News saying that they have sources indicating that the Kings are granting Kovalchuk his release. Now, not really sure how that's going to work. Obviously, he could go back and play in the KHL. There was some talk about that yesterday as well. But based on Cap Friendly's reporting on this as well, obviously they're kind of the experts when it comes to the CBA and how the salary cap works, that because this was an over 35 contract, that there's really no scenario where they can get cap relief according to what they're reporting on right now as well. So even if they do release him and terminate the contract, they're still going to be on the hook for his cap hit, which is not going to get them relief that way. Based on what they're saying, I mean, I guess there could be exceptions by the league. I don't know how that's going to work. I know there was some different stuff going on when he left the Devils to go back and play in Russia too. So that was based on his retirement. But this is a different scenario where he was over the age of 35 when he signed that contract. So I guess we'll wait further information. Check the pinned comment down below. After I record this, if more information comes available, that's where you'll get the updated information. Unless it's later, then I very well may discuss it a little bit, follow up on it tomorrow if there's more info at that point in time. But looks as though his time in LA might be coming to an end here very, very soon, either being traded or possibly being released, according to the Hockey News this afternoon. Now, I want to touch on the Detroit Red Wings quickly here as well. On the latest edition of Insider Trading on TSN, there was some talk about which players very well might be released that are in the NHL to go back and play for Team Canada or any other country at the World Junior Tournament coming up here at Christmas time. One player they touched on that likely would be made available was Detroit Red Wings prospect Joe Veleno. Of course, he's playing in their American Hockey League affiliate in Grand Rapids. Hasn't done amazingly well, but he has 2 or 3 points, I think, in 14, 15 games or something to that effect. So he's done okay, but he's not really in a situation where they'd absolutely have to keep him there. They would be willing to let him go back. He played for Team Canada last year, so for them to get him back as a returning player would be huge. At his age, he's already completed 4 years of junior hockey, given the fact that he was given exceptional status at age 15 to enter the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League rather than wait till 16. So we'll see what happens with Volino, but it certainly would be a big boost for Canada if he could come back and certainly play a more prominent role than he did last year. However, some other players that are already in the NHL and having a decent amount of success, like Kirby Dach, for example, likely will not be released, along with Barrett Hayton of the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, that could change, but as of right now, it's not looking like either guy is going to be made available for the tournament. Now, the St. Louis Blues are bringing in a couple of veteran forwards on professional tryouts, and that includes forwards Troy Brouwer and Jamie McGinn, both been around the NHL for some time. Of course, Troy Brouwer played for one season with the Blues back in 2015-16, had a decent season. Of course, they've had the major injury to Vladimir Tarasenko. They do have some young players that are certainly, trying to get themselves a more regular spot. They have called up Klim Kostin right now, where they have, a tight schedule here over the next few days, where they have a lot of games in the short term. They're going to try to get him some action, see how he looks at the NHL, let him make his season debut as well, see how that goes. But Doug Armstrong basically indicated in a previous interview in the last couple of days that they'd like to get some more experience. They don't want to rely too much on a lot of these younger players, just in case they're not ready. Let them have their seasoning down in the American Hockey League and continue to grow and develop that way. Of course, they recently traded Robbie Fabry for Jacob Delarose, so seeing how he fits in as well. I mean, don't see him having a big impact, and maybe one of these guys might even be able to take a spot that he would occupy. So it'll be interesting to see if either of these guys actually end up getting a contract for the remainder of the season with the Blues. I think Brouwer would probably be the more likely of the two, but given their injury situation, Doug Armstrong felt it necessary to bring on a couple of more veterans here on a tryout basis. So we'll see what happens with that as that story develops. Now, of course, as we reported on previously as well, the Toronto Maple Leafs have sent Michael Hutchinson, backup goaltender, down to the Marlies. And they brought up American Hockey League goaltender Casimir Cascusio, which apparently looks as though the Leafs are likely going to run with him for a little while, see how he can do before they decide to jump back into the goalie market or not. It was previously reported they were looking for a more experienced backup, but it looks as though they've kind of explored that market. There wasn't much out there that seemed interesting to them, so they're going to stick with what they have. Let him really have a good shot to see what they have in him before they go any further, making any trades. There's the latest reports by Pierre LeBrun on Insider Trading. It was no secret they were certainly looking around before, but that seems to have stopped right now. It was also reported that they did have talks with Scott Darling. Of course, he ended up going over to Europe to play over there, so I'm not really sure that would have been a great move for the Leafs, but he was a player that they did have conversations with, at least coming in, on a short-term deal. But we'll see what happens. But for right now, the Leafs are going to run with Casimir Cascusio and see how he makes out before they make any further decisions on their goaltending situation. I also want to touch base here on the Dallas Stars. Remember last year we heard comments from executive Jim Lites who really came out and blasted Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin for not getting the job done, not being productive enough, and really blaming the team's failures on those two top guys, which certainly they do bear a lot of the responsibility, being such leaders on the team and top players around the NHL when they're playing strong, what they're capable of at least. And now this year we've had a similar situation, except it came from the head coach Jim Montgomery, where he basically blasted Benn and Seguin here recently. Frustration really seems to be boiling over in Dallas. Now, after those comments were made, he did end up apologizing for those comments and kind of put the blame on everybody, not just on them. But clearly, as you can see, frustrations are running rampant with the Dallas Stars. They got off to an extremely poor start. Then they kind of got things turned around for a good stretch, and then they've kind of fallen off the rails here yet again. So, Jamie Benn, for example, has really gone downhill big time gradually over the last couple of years. This year so far, he's got 1 goal in 18 games. Tyler Seguin certainly not having a fantastic year, but he's not doing nearly as poorly as Jamie Benn. He's got 11 points in 18 games, so certainly better production than Benn. But clearly being the captain locked into this year, plus 5 more years at $9.5 million with a form of a no trade protection in his contract, certainly makes things very, very complicated. And as Darren Dreger talked about on Insider Trading, he basically said, for the most part, these are contracts that would be very difficult to move. They're basically married together, so they need to figure it out, which I do agree with. Making a deal for either of these guys, I think Benn would be the preferred one to be moved if a deal did happen. But clearly that, like I said, would not be any easy task given the contract and how he's been playing as of late. But based on everything that's gone on, wouldn't be shocking to see them actually go down and explore that market. So do you think it's possible that the Dallas Stars, with all the frustrations they've been through last year and this year, and all the comments, not only from the executives, but now from the head coach, could Captain Jamie Benn be on his way out of Dallas? It might be possible that, after everything he's been through, maybe he would want a fresh start to try to rejuvenate his career. But no, they are kind of married to some of these top players on long-term expensive contracts. Could we possibly see a divorce anytime soon in Dallas as frustrations continue to mount? Of course, as always, I want to know your thoughts and opinions and everything discussed here today, so certainly let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.